Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to a special Christmas edition of the Golf Rules Questions podcast. My name's Rossco, your co-host, sitting alongside on the computer. We will get to do this face to face at some time in the near future, probably 2021. Blakey, how are you, sir? Are you well?
Going well, Rossco. Yes, it's that festive time of year where we all celebrate family and presents. Maybe taking a break, Rossco, having some more golf.
There will be a break for a day. We'll have a break for a day, and then straight back into
Boxing Day.
Keeping the golfers of Melbourne very familiar with the golf clubs. It's a very busy time in golf at the moment, and it leads into one of the topics that we will dedicate today's Golf Rules Questions podcast around, because the volume of golfers that are on courses at the moment, especially in the public course arena, can sometimes cause some consternation for the amount of players and the people that organise the golf courses and so on and so forth. And that is the topic of slow play. So today we will talk about slow play for the duration of the podcast. We did mention the other week that we're going to talk about etiquette, and this sort of falls into that category, but there are rules that define and govern slow play. So we're going to talk a bit about that. But first and foremost, we've probably got our segments to cover off. We've got last week's Golf Rules Question of the week to answer. What else? We've got some listener questions this week that we will go through as well. Ivers.
I've got too many Ivers that I get like 3 Ivers, 4 Ivers a week, and I can't even keep up with them.
You're probably going to finish this year the clubhouse leader in the Iver department by about
a mile and a half.
And what do we got? Background bingo. Last week's background bingo, mine I thought was pretty obscure, but it was picked up. And what else? Yeah,
and mine wasn't quite got there, but hopefully this week might get there. I haven't actually played here, but we'll get into that later on. What a backdrop though.
Absolutely, a special backdrop. Obviously looks like a very special place, and that couple that is playing there in their t-shirt look like they're having a great time. If you want to see what we're talking about, this is a podcast, obviously, so we're in your ears, and sorry for taking a bit of time to get to the point, but if you want to see these backgrounds, special courses that usually we've had some level of play and association with, you've got to jump over to the YouTube channel. You've got to jump over to the great resource for all Blakey's Golf Rules Questions topics, and that's over on Golf Rules Questions YouTube. So go over there, subscribe, and leave a comment. There's plenty of commentary around Blakey's great videos. Puts a lot of time to curating those videos, playlists and set lists and whatever you call them. So jump over there if you want to see the backgrounds. My background this week is a very special course, a new course. If I move my head, you can probably see the club flag. Anyway, Blakey, what was last week's Golf Rules Question of the week? And please, can you answer it?
Yeah, so last week's Golf Rules Question of the week was about artificial air or propelled air. It was about if a blower causes a ball to move. And I was coming up with an example that was very obscure, and then you came up with sort of a better example. Say the greenkeeper gets out and he's blowing leaves off the green and he causes your ball to move. What is the situation there? So because it's not wind, it is wind, because it's not natural wind, not like after eating a curry, it's artificial wind or artificial air, propelled air, then it's deemed an outside influence, and you just replace the ball to where it was moved from. Now, the really funny thing was, a day later, I get this photo or video, was it, sent through from you when you were at PK, your beloved PK, of greenkeeper out there with his blower.
First thing I saw as I drove into the club, I saw one of the Ben's team down there blowing the grass off the greens and blowing the surrounds, as they do every day, They've got the big ones on they pull behind the tractors, and one of the fellas was down there just with the hand blower. So I took a video and sent it to you.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I've got a real good rules community that listen to these podcasts or watch the vlogcasts, including some rules gurus themselves, such as Fraser Nichol, David Grieve, and Jerry Bauer, and many others. And Jerry's the best because, sorry, I shouldn't say he's the best. He's one of the best because he emails me basically straight away. Maybe it suits the American time. Sorry, he's in Canada, but that time zone. And he emails me usually straight away after listening to it, one of the first to listen to it. And he had that situation and actually emailed me and told me that he was looking after a blower as a referee at a tournament and actually accidentally blew one of the competitors' golf balls or moved it on the green. So they just replaced it and there was no penalty. So really interesting. It has happened is what I'm trying to get to, convolutely get there.
In your refereeing situations, have you ever had to walk around and be in charge of such high-powered equipment, such as a blower?
No, I leave that to my gardening in my backyard.
Okay.
So that's not something I've ever gotten to use or look after, be responsible for. But I have been in situations where we are near courses that are quite windy, lots of pine needles, pine straw, and they can get cover the green, and we need the maintenance crew to get their blowers in there and get rid of all that stuff.
Okay, well, there you go. So it's just like the same sort of thing if an outside agency, like a road kid running across the fairway that happened to me in the 1997 Cessnock Cup, or a bird or anything like that moves your ball. It's the same sort of rule. Replace it with that penalty back to the place where the ball was.
Yeah, spot on.
Very good. Okay, so what's next? Do you want to talk about some of the questions that we've received?
Yeah, I think you had one that you brought up the other day that happened to one of my
team, one of my posse of high quality, high performing elite amateur golfers down here. Young Adam. So Adam was playing in the Port Phillip Amateur Championship, which was played, I believe, over the course of a few rounds at Kingston Heath and I think maybe Metro. Could be
Commonwealth.
Sorry, Commonwealth.
Usually it's Commonwealth and Port Phillip. Commonwealth and Kingston Heath.
Yeah, so sorry, Commonwealth and Kingston Heath, yes. And young Adam was playing on. Do you remember which hole it was? Maybe
Yes, I do actually. It was Kingston Heath. It was number 16.
16.
The one that the dog leg left to right, and from the back tee, you head over a hill and you can't really see the group in front of you.
Yeah. So the group behind actually did see the group in front because you see them when you leave the par 3. And anyway, they've essentially hit up on Adam's group, and Adam was in the process of making a shot. He's got through his backswing. He has been hit by the ball, struck by the ball on the foot. He has attempted to pull out of the shot, but still managed to impact the ball. Obviously not to anywhere near the desired shot that, plus marker would go to, and it probably cost him qualifying for the next stage, if the truth be known. But one of his playing partners asked the question, you better get a ruling on that because, you were attempting to pull out of the shot. Now, when he sort of asked me, because he knows that I know you and we do this together and all that sort of thing, I think I knew the answer, but I asked you. So he's playing, ball from behind has hit him. He's tried to pull out of the shot, still collected the ball, didn't go anywhere near what a good shot would have been or a reasonable shot would have been, went off to the side. What happens?
Yeah, so he semi-shanked it, I think was his words there. So when you start the stroke is just the downswing. The backswing doesn't count as the stroke. So when you start the downswing, if you want to not make a stroke from that point, so you've started the downswing and you want to stop it or not have it count as a stroke, the only way is to miss the ball deliberately. Okay, so if you miss the ball deliberately, it won't count as a stroke. If you touch the ball accidentally, but still after you've started that downswing, it's going to count as a stroke. So it's different, and I don't want to confuse anyone here, but if you hadn't started the downswing, then you're fine. However, if you then touch the ball and cause it to move, you're going to get a penalty unless, you know, certain areas, teeing area, putting green, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get a penalty for causing your ball to move. But in this case, because he started the downswing, then said, oh, I want to stop, but he's already sliced it off or shanked it to the right, then it counts as a stroke and he has to play it from its new position.
Yeah, which is what he did, which is exactly what he did.
If he was able to Kevin Na it and swing over the top of it, deliberately miss it, it's a different story. Now he's changed his intention to make a stroke.
Okay, so we've answered that. I'm going to ask a follow-up question, and I think you just discussed it there, but just for the benefit of the doubt. So you're playing a shot. You start the takeaway of the club. You get to the top of your backswing. You start to make the downswing. The ball moves off its, pine needle, for example. You know, just talking about pine needle. The ball moves off its pine needle. If you continue with the stroke and hit the ball, there's no penalty there, right?
Correct. If the ball moves after you've started the backswing, then you don't get a penalty unless you cause the ball to move.
Yep. So if you complete the shot, you can see the ball moving, but you still go at it and you hit the shot, and while the ball's moving,
you're not going to get penalised for making a stroke at a moving ball. And as I said, the penalty would only be incurred if you were the one that caused the ball to move. And, there's a couple of exceptions that we just talked about, whether it's on the teeing area or
the putting
green. Exactly.
So if you stop, you go, oh, my ball's moved, and then you stop, you get a penalty.
Now you have to work out whether you caused it to move or not. And if you didn't, and it was natural forces, now it's the new position, unless you're in the teeing area and you can put it back, or it's on the putting green, you'd already marked and placed it, Mark lifted and placed it, replaced it. So a bit of a rabbit hole for that one. But
using my pine needles example.
Yep. So we're in the general area. This is a great example.
So you're in the general area. The ball's on pine needles.
Yeah.
You lightly ground your club there because and then you start to swing. The ball moves.
I'd say you caused it to move in that case.
Yeah.
But it has to be at least 95% virtually certain that you caused it to move. But that would be basically almost 100% unless it was really windy.
And that's what I wanted to clear up because when you
jump near your ball.
Yeah, when you said natural forces, like if you're on pine straws, loose sticks, anything like that, and you take and you've set up for the ball, then you take your stroke, the ball moves, then you stop. It's not 95% certain to me that you've caused the ball to move. It's not natural. It's not natural forces. So
I totally agree with that. If you didn't ground your club, I'd say now you got like 70% or maybe even 50%, and so you're going to be okay.
What if you've gone in there and moved some loose impediments, haven't grounded your club because it's hanging precariously or somewhat precariously, but you might have moved a couple of loose impediments around there, maybe not directly near it, but just around it. Then you start your swing and then you pull out, and because the ball's moved. What's what's your playing partner's going to be suggesting there?
First question is time between when you moved the loose impediments and when the ball moved.
Okay.
What? Give me a time and I'll tell you. And I'll tell you, and I'm happy for people to debate this with me. But you give me a time and I'll try and tell you whether I think it's 95% or not.
Okay. So I go up to the ball. I put my bag down. I assess what I've got to deal with. I walk up. I clear some of the the bigger sticks and the loose impediments around there, but it's obviously on the pine needles or whatever it is. I I've made an assessment. I've got my rangefinder out. I've looked at the target, whatever I've done. I've gone back. I've picked up my 6-iron. I go back. I take my stance, make a backswing. Ball moves off its twig. I pull out and I go, ball move, guys, but I didn't move it.
Yeah, you hadn't grounded the club.
No, in the example that we're trying to sort of give everyone a bit more of an insight into,
then I would say you have not caused your ball to move.
Okay,
you could have played it. Well, it's not virtually certain that you caused it to move. You could have played a big part in it. You could have been 80% part in it, but the time that it took for the ball to actually move, you might have put it in such a position that just a breath of wind.
Okay.
A minute later moved your ball.
Yep.
But if you were to say 3, 4, 5 seconds, I'd say 95%.
Yeah, okay. But not in the time as my example cited,
No.
going back, picking a club, maybe choosing between 2 clubs and then going back. Okay, fair enough. Good.
You could have been a big part of it. As I said, you could have been a big part of it. You could have been 90% of the reason.
Yep, but you got to be more than like 95%.
95% virtually certain that you were the one that caused the ball to move.
I think that's good information for the people because I think there's still some consternation around that type of rule scenario, which happens a lot more often than you probably care to be advised about in every Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Monday club comps or wherever. So that was good. Good to dig up on that. We weren't planning that, but there we go. All right.
I mean, certainly for those competitions as well, people don't want to be penalised for this, and we don't want to penalise people for this, but we also, and we've talked about it in one of the previous episodes, we want people to be careful around their ball. That's number one rule. Be careful around your ball. Don't play the course as you find it. So if it's in a precarious position, be careful.
Okay, so we'll move on. Next, do we have Big P's question? Is that what we're going to go with?
Yeah,
Blakey?
absolutely. He recorded it a few weeks ago, so I think most might pick up on when he actually recorded it. But we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of time to really answer this question properly. So let's go for it.
And Big P, thank you very much for your contribution so far. Merry Christmas to you and all of your loved ones and family. Thank you for there's 2 pages worth of questions here from Big P. So if we've taken our time, it's because we've answered so many. So here we go.
G'day, Blakey and Rossco. Big P from Clubland here. Getting really excited about the Masters coming up. One interesting fact, I think, is that the Masters has really only given out one slow play penalty in recent years, and that was to a 13 or 14-year-old Chinese amateur who got in by winning the Asia Pacific Am. I think it was in 2013 he played the Masters. Now, obviously he was given some warnings, etc., and then penalised. I don't understand, how can he be any different? How much slower could he be than the pros that take forever, like Bryson, who takes 8 minutes to line up a putt? Surely something needs to be done about this. Blakey, what can the rules officials do to stop slow play? Thanks.
Very good, Big P. Very good indeed. Now, obviously, as I alluded to at the start of the podcast, it's golf seasons amongst us down here in the Southern Hemisphere. Plenty of people out there playing golf, and slow play is an issue on the course, even in clubland, even in public golf land, and even on professional tours. And as Big P rightly cites the example of, what was the young man's name? Guan Tianling.
Yeah, Guan Tianlang.
Did we get that right?
Yeah.
Guan Tianlang. Young man. I think if you remember the Masters, you'll remember that young man. He was a sensation, but got penalised. So, Blakey, let's start with Big P's question. Before then, we come into what we're going to define as the top 6 ways to avoid slow play. Is that correct? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's right. Santa's tips for how to speed up play. Because as we know, Santa has to be pretty fast when he delivers presents.
Give us a background on Guan Tianlang's situation there, for those that maybe didn't remember, and give us some of that insight into what happens in the pro world, because they are the bigger exponents of slow play, and I think part of the causal factor when we look at newer golfers and club golfers playing the game?
Yeah, so Guan, as Big P said, got into the Masters by way of winning the Asia Pacific Amateur, and at 13, or he was 14 when he was playing the Masters, he was penalised. And, you know, I just go off what I've sort of read. He had been warned prior to that, and he was in a group with Matteo Manacero and Ben Crenshaw, and Matteo also got a slow play penalty during that round. But yeah, it was basically a case of he played slow and he'd been warned, and he continued to play slow. So Ben Crenshaw actually made the comment that it was on one particular putt that was, you know, as you can imagine at Augusta, it was quite dicey, and he took more than the allotted 40 seconds or 50 seconds that he was permitted to play within. Now, in my own experience, sort of smallish experience of refereeing professional events, the pros aren't great. You know, there are a few that are good, but they sort of seem to get held up by everyone else, and then they learn to play slower so as not to sort of put themselves off, I guess. You know, if they go too fast, they get fed up with waiting, so they have to sort of go through some breathing techniques and go through, you know, just switching off at the tee. So then while they're waiting for 2 or 3 minutes, you know, Rory McIlroy is a very fast player. Brooks Koepka is a very fast player, and they actually come out and talk about how, you know, it's annoying that some of the other professionals play so slow. Big P mentioned Bryson, not one of the better ones there. Ben Crane, back in sort of the late the 2000s, Ben Crane, he was one of the slower ones, and he got penalised, monetary penalties, but they didn't do too much. You know, he would have to cough up 20 to 30,000 a year, but when you're winning $1 million and you got sponsorship deals on top of that, you know, does it really? It's a drop in the ocean. So it wasn't really that much of a penalty. You know, the idea is that, how about, you know, penalising a shot is actually quite, you know, a lot more of a penalty, because you could miss the cut and then you actually get no money. The other way to do it, other people sort of think, is how about we penalise them world ranking points, or penalise them if you know, on a certain tour, you penalise them FedEx Cup points or something like that. But the interesting thing about that is a lot of the professionals would say no to that. You know, they're part of the player, you know, the players committee, and they need to sign off on that stuff, and they're just not going to.
Yeah, look, if my man Rocket was here joining us on this podcast, he would be having a field day right now, because he is all over all of the slow players on tour, and chides them absolutely, probably very relevantly for playing very slowly. He would know them off by heart, and you can probably go back through any of the Rossco and Rocket episodes on the My Love of Golf. Please follow me over on the My Love of Golf podcast, a great podcast with Rossco and Rocket and a lot of interviews. But he would suggest that players actually budget for the fines. You know, they put in their annual budget that they prepare for, you know, travel, jet fuel, meals, accommodation, caddies, fines for slow play.
Yeah, that's correct. That's certainly what Ben Crane did, and many others would do that as well. You know, the European Tour is a lot better with slow play or pace of play, in my experience, limited experience. You know, they try and treat everyone the same. You have this amount of time to play the game. You know, there's still going to be slow players out there, which is unfortunate. You know, the main thing that, you know, the reason that we want players to play fast is to get round so that we don't have to come back at 5 in the morning. But the players don't. If they're sitting in the middle of the field or at the start of the field, they're not too concerned because they know they're going to get through and they're not going to have to turn up the next day at early days. But those people that tee off last almost have to turn around and come back first thing in the morning. So it's a bit of a shame how it all works out for them. But,
yeah.
I had experience last year when I was working on tour with one group. And this guy, he wasn't fast. He thought that he was fast because he'd won some shot clock tournament. And then also the other person in the group was terrible. He actually took 40 seconds for over the ball, which I couldn't believe it. And he was a major winner. So they were, 10 minutes behind when I got to them. And then I had to time them for 7 holes, I think it was. And the worst thing was I was a bit of a rookie ref, so they didn't give me any respect. I'm not there to wanting to hand out penalties, but if it has to be done, it has to be done. I handed out a slow play fine, which means it's just a monetary fine, depending on how many slow play penalties that person's had that season. The person I gave to, he was not happy, went off, and the other person, he didn't care. The major winner, he didn't care. And they just didn't make up any time. I think I held them so that they didn't lose any more time, but they didn't make up any time. And it was, so I was with them the whole 7 holes up until the 18th green. It was just ridiculous. They don't care, the major winner, he sort of played more in the US than the European Tour now. It's just that it's a culture that they have as much time. They have the right to play with whatever time they want. And it's unfortunate when we see it on TV, it looks horrible, especially coming down to the last few holes on a Sunday. It's more seen then. On Thursday, Friday, you've got heaps of players, so the camera can just go, that player, that player, that player, Whereas on Saturday, Sunday, mainly the cameras around the leaders or the last 3 or 4 groups. And, when there's a massive gap of 1 hole, 2 holes between a couple of the groups coming in, it's just a horrible look. I mean, golf, the professional game is all about entertainment. But when these players are playing slow, it's not entertaining at all.
Well, you can see that when the cameras do show players that are waiting on a tee, and you can see some of the frustrations that they do bear. So let's get straight into, helping everyone understand a little bit more on what they can do out on course to avoid these scenarios. Because as club golfers, there's nothing more frustrating ourselves to be, held back by slow play. Yes, everyone wants to take time and care over their shots and shot making, shot selections, and no one's there to play with the intent of scoring badly, and you want to consider all of your shots. But there are certainly ways that you can give yourself the requisite amount of time over the ball to make that shot by doing other things around the game of golf to improve your timeliness and an efficiency between shots and efficiency around the course. So let's start with...
well, I just want to...
sorry.
No, you're right, Rossco. I just want to start with, and this goes into what you're about to talk about, but what is slow play? What is slow play? And there's one word that comes to mind when we talk about slow play, and this defines what slow play is. It's inconsideration. It's being inconsiderate. People being inconsiderate of others. They're not thinking about how their game or their pace is affecting anyone else, and they're wasting other people's time, which is horrible. I mean, it's a tough thing. Possibly people are trying too hard, taking too many practice swings. They're not being aware of where they are on the golf course. They're not being aware of their position on the golf course. And it really just being inconsiderate to others?
The general premise that most clubs would suggest that you abide by in a Saturday competition, for example, would be to keep up with the group in front, not keep in front of the group behind. So, your task is to keep position with the group that is in front of you, and not simply just, be racing against, not getting in the way of the group behind you and not holding them up. And, it's pretty easy to see when you're holding the group behind you up. So, if you focus of all the team members, all the group members, it's keep up with the group in front, usually in a club situation. And most of you that are club golfers will be aware of this, but, the social golfers that are playing, pay to play golf and playing at a variety of different courses in and amongst a variety of different golfers, usually in club comps, the lowest handicapper of the group, who is, I guess, somewhat deemed unofficially, but the responsibility of the pace of play for the group. They just by pure golf ability, their handicap would suggest that they have, I guess, in many scenarios, more responsibility, more understanding of the rules, and and also playing less shots if they've got the lowest handicap. So they, I guess, most clubs would assume that the lowest handicapper has a responsibility to keep the pace of the play of the group and keep an eye out of that. So, if you've never heard of that before and you're playing out there in the social round and, you are the lower handicap or you're more experienced, you've played some club competition golf, just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big defenses is people saying, "Oh, but I just want to go out there and enjoy my game and I don't want to go home too early." Well, no one's saying don't enjoy your game. Just learn to enjoy it by playing it quicker. But also, maybe buy your own golf course and stop being inconsiderate to others. Just let other players play through.
Buy your own golf course.
Yeah, buy your own golf course.
Yeah, we're not all Donald Trump or there, Blakey, but most of us will just play down at someone else's golf course and have to deal with that.
Well, I just prefer, instead of people buying their own golf course, I just prefer people just be a bit more considerate of others and just be aware of where their position is on the golf course.
It is one of the harder jobs in the game of golf, to have to speed up your playing partners. Sometimes in club competitions you don't know them that well, and if you are that person that might have that unofficial responsibility for the pace of play, it is a hard thing to sometimes deal with slow play or a slow player in a group and have to counsel them on that. It's not a pleasant way to have to get on, and sometimes it's just communication skills that allows you to do that well or not. But sometimes some people are just very blunt and direct and say, "Mate, you're too slow. You've got to get a huffle on." But anyway,
how to make friends and influence people.
Well, there's a bit of that in golf always, isn't there? Now, so we've sort of started to cover this, but let's define 6. We've got a list of maybe 10 or 15 here, but let's just talk about 6. Now, I'm going to start with what might be the Dorothy Dix, or the most obvious one. Be aware when it's your turn to play. Pretty simple. Usually furthest from the hole goes first. You see this a lot of social golf. The group of 4 will walk up to the furthest from the holes player's ball, or watch that player hit, and then they get to the next player, and so on and so forth. That is a surefire way to slow down the group and lose your position on the course. Very simply, everyone just moves to their ball. The furthest from the hole goes first, and while the furthest from the hole is getting, having his shot, you are getting ready for your shot. You've got your rangefinder, your GPS, you've done all of your analysis, you've selected your club. So as soon as he's fired his 6-iron at the target, you're pretty much ready to go. And you're not watching him and then going through your motions. And you see the pros do that a lot. They'll watch the other player play, and then they'll go through their routine, and that is what creates slow play. So as a club golfer, as a social golfer, you can walk to your ball, get ready, go through your process. As soon as the other player that's furthest from the hole, you've stayed out of their way, you're not in their vision, you're ready to go. That is a very, very simple one. Be aware when it is your turn to play. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so following on from that, number 2 is what you were just saying, plus what you were just saying before, and that if people aren't aware of where their location, where their position is on the golf course, of them getting ready, tell them, say, hey, you go over there. Don't worry about looking for my ball. I'm going to go to the provisional anyway. Go over and get ready for your shot. Or your ball's in the bunker. I won't hit you. It's safe. Go over there and choose your club and work it out. Usually, part of the problem of being inconsiderate are these bad habits as well. These bad habits of going out and not being taught how to properly play faster. And if you are playing with people like that, reteach them, help them out.
Yep, absolutely. So number 2 is be aware when it's someone else's turn to play and let them know if they aren't ready.
That's
so
right.
Just guide them along. It's very, you go over there, you hit your shot. I'll be over here looking for Barry's ball. Hit your shot and then I'll go and help you or whatever. Number 3, walk and talk. I think that's pretty simple. Do your talking in amongst your group while you're walking. From the green to the tee, from the tee to your next shot. There's always a fair bit of chance there. One of the causal factors of slow play is someone cracks a funny, someone's got a story, and it's just when everyone's due to be hitting off and everyone has a listen, or they don't want to hit off because you're telling a story or whatever. Just get to the tee. That's the other walk and talk. You move from the green, whether you talk from the green to the tee. I probably wouldn't. My focus when I leave the green is if I'm first, I just want to get off. If I've putted out first, for example, I don't think it's poor behaviour not to watch the rest of my playing partners putt out. Stand on the side of the green and watch Barry, Bob, and Bill putt. I leave the putting green, I get my gear, and I move to the next hole, and I get ready to hit my shot first. And I openly declare when I play. This might fire some people up, I don't know, but I say I don't worry about honours. I don't care about honour. I play ready golf, and this is a topic that you'll hear a lot of, ready golf. So, moving from the green to the tee, I just go and I get ready to hit. And as soon as the players are coming off the green, and if I'm there ready to hit, and they're not going to bother me while they're walking to the tee, I hit. So all of a sudden, there's only 3 players to get off at the same time, not 4.
Yeah, exactly right. If you are going to talk, have a conversation, don't do it when players should be playing, at the teeing area, and don't do it on the green either.
Yeah.
Do it when you're walking down the fairway. Or how about, this is an even better idea. Play your game of golf, your 18 holes, go into the bar, sit in there for an hour and a half, have your conversation then, and basically don't even talk to each other on the golf course, except to say good putt and great shot, and your ball's gone in the trees. Golf was sort of started on, and you'd probably have more experience with this than I would, but there's a lot of clubs that you go and play 36 holes in one day. You play in the morning, maybe a singles or a 4-ball. You have lunch, and then you go out and play a foursomes. You couldn't do that if you took 5.5 hours around.
No, Muirfield is the probably most famous place for doing that. I remember having the pleasure to play at Muirfield, and we played behind a group that had played 18 individual in the morning, and then they played foursomes in the afternoon. So that was the afternoon. You have lunch, then you go and play foursomes. And Muirfield is set out in a way where they've got these little tracks mown in all these obscure places. But basically, it's for the 2 people in the group to walk to the fairway instead of having to walk to the tee and then up the fairway. So when they're playing foursomes in the afternoon, the 2 people who are teeing off walk to the tee, and then the other 2 walk on another track through the heathery grass. And if you have a look at Muirfield, you can see all these pathways cut through the grass, and it's basically for the foursomes players to be in the middle of the fairway waiting for their playing partners to hit the ball up there, and also work like a 4 caddy as well. So they play foursomes.
That's awesome.
And we were playing as a 2, and we could not keep up with the 4 in front of us playing foursomes. We were playing our own ball in a 2, and they were just flying.
Yeah,
So
wow.
Yeah, you're right. Don't waste time on the green. You do see a lot of social golfers wasting time on the green. Now, how do you waste time on the green? This is my sort of quick fire take on how you waste time on the green. Not being ready to putt when it's your turn. So obviously, like most time, for the furthest from the hole will go first. If you can putt out within reason, you should putt out. Marking short putts and letting the next furthest player hit. You see this a lot. The furthest will putt and then they'll mark their ball. And then the next furthest will putt and then they'll mark their ball. And then the next furthest will putt and then they'll mark their ball. All of a sudden you've got 4 players putting and then they go through the process again. It is not unreasonable to putt out if you can. You should always try and putt out if you can. No one's going to begrudge you, wanting to line up a putt if it's for a 5 or 2 or whatever. But let people know what you're doing. I'm just going to mark that as you're walking to the ball, and that gives a signal that the next person should be ready. They're ready to go. So you can save a lot of time by not waiting for everyone to putt, and just tell people and communicate what you're doing on the green. I'm going to mark that. Get ready to go.
Well,
I'm going to putt out.
They actually brought in the rule 13.1C, 13.1C, about you can repair damage. So if someone stood on your line when they've been putting out, tapping in, you can repair that now.
Yep.
So there should be no issue to let someone, continue play, and then you can just repair the damage after they play.
Yep.
What you'll see, sorry, Rossco, what you'll see is, and this is the biggest way to waste time on the green, is you'll see someone putting a 20-footer and 3 people standing beside each other watching the 20-footer. What should be really happening is that person is putting the 20-footer. The next person, if it's not on the line of play, is basically lining up their ball, and whether they're lining up behind it, whether they're replacing the ball, or just basically ready to putt. They're standing over it and ready to putt. As soon as that ball stops, or it's tapped in, or it's marked, or it's holed, the other person goes. And then the next person is already doing that. And then, that 10-footer is stopped, hold, is marked, tapped in, whatever, they go. It's these little congregation of people watching one person play. That's the difference between 3 minutes and 5 minutes. And you think about if you save 2 minutes on every green, 36 minutes. That's your 5-hour round down to 4 hours 24.
Well, you're the mathematician of the group. I think it's pretty obvious. What the funny thing, I was just thinking about repairing divots and not divots, damage on the green, which now includes spike marks and that sort of thing. Isn't it funny when someone stands on your line but doesn't let you know, or doesn't give you the opportunity to say, would you like me to mark that? But they just walk up and stand on your line, and you get really agitated by that, and you go, oh, you're standing on my line. But then I think about me, how I play, and if someone has a putt and it's clear that they can finish, but they might stand on my line, and I'm playing at 12:30 in the afternoon, my quick math in my head goes, you know what? There's probably been 150 pairs of shoes already stood on that part of the thing. There's as much chance of that guy's footprint helping my ball putt go in than hindering it to go in, and I get the chance to smooth anything out. I just tell him to putt out, mate. Don't worry about it, Bill. Putt out. And usually Bill putts out and he's off to the next tee, because I've said, mate, you go and get ready to play a shot, and because we've got to keep up with the group in front. But it's funny when they don't give you that etiquette of saying, oh, I'm going to mark that, or would you like me to mark that? Then it really annoys you.
Yeah, well, it's just it
shouldn't, but it does.
It's habit, Rossco. Yeah. It's you and I being used to, you've got to be considerate of someone's line of putt. But now it doesn't matter as much. But that doesn't mean it doesn't irk you. It's the same as in Melbourne when you're driving along and you let someone in and they don't give you a wave. I absolutely hate that. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, is you let someone in while you're driving and they don't give you a wave. So if you ever see me in a car and I let you in and you don't give me a wave, just remember there's a nice place in hell for you.
Geez, Blakey, you'd be getting peeved off in traffic. I spend a lot of time in the traffic, mate, and if that's how you feel, don't get a job where you've got to commute.
Working from home has been fantastic. My road rage has gone down to almost zero.
Blakey, I don't want NYC Entrepreneur to chide us for time wasting on this podcast, so let's keep moving on. Practice swings waste time.
Do they what? Oh my God. Don't have a practice swing. You know, just before you hit your ball, if you want to have a practice swing, do it when someone else is, away from them, so you're not distracting them, but do it when someone else is playing their shot. Don't have a practice swing right beside your ball. It's just, if you're not ready for the shot, you should have gotten ready. You should have loosened yourself up before you got to the ball, basically. Don't have a practice swing. They're horrible. They waste time. And usually you've wasted the good shot.
You see that a bit. Someone who takes a practice swing that is an absolute rehearsal of their full shot, even including the time, and almost like watching the ball go to the target. But really, the best golfers, just watch what they do. They probably take a wee bit too long. I've got an example. My good colleague and friend, Jamie Glazier from the Mental Mastery Golf Podcast, who is a performance coach for a lot of talented athletes, including US amateur winner Gabby Ruffles, and who just finished in the top 20 of the US Open with the professionals about a week ago. She played in the Riversdale Cup as a young lady, and she played 4 rounds, or however many rounds they played, 3 or whatever it was, and did not take one practice swing for the entire tournament.
You don't need to.
Did not take one practice swing. She started in the practice in practice and said, "I'm hitting the ball so good, and I'm just seeing exactly what's happening. I am not going to do a practice swing." And she didn't take one.
You just don't. Now, if someone who does take a practice swing still hits their ball within 17 seconds, I'm not going to, you're still a friend of mine. But if you take anywhere near 30 seconds, 35 seconds, and you've had a practice swing, then I won't be inviting you around for dinner.
Okay, this is going to be the last one because I think that is 6, and we said we'd do 6. So this is going to be the last one. So far we've got be aware when it's your turn to play, be aware when it's someone else's turn to play, walk and talk when it's appropriate. Don't walk and talk when it's not appropriate. Or
if you're going to talk, make sure it's while you're walking.
Yeah. Don't waste time on the green. One of Blakey's pet hates: practice swings waste time. Do them efficiently and effectively. Don't do them inappropriately and at inappropriate times. And I'm going to go with this one, Blakey. Play a provisional ball if your ball could be lost outside a penalty area, out of bounds, off the tee. That is something that you see, when you see someone having to go back to the tee. I like to ask, this is probably going to sound a bit childish, when someone comes back to my tee because they have not been able to find their ball, I always ask them if they've got a good round going, and ask them to try and find out what sort of points they're on with, if it's on the 16th. It's invariably like they're going for 29 points, or they've got 31 points on the board. And if they've been slow all day, I might let them know that I hope the wait was worth it. Sorry.
I like that.
How many points you got going, mate? How many points is
23?
You going for 40s? We getting the title here today? We got $50 voucher already in your account, or what's going on? No, mate. No, just I lost my ball down there. It's okay, fair enough. And you find out later they've had 29 points.
They're not your best friend, are they, Ross?
If anyone misses out in the ball comp because they know that I'm behind them and they don't come back and they wipe a hole, I'll give them the golf ball if they're playing it. I will give them the golf ball. You've probably got some left over from your great
I do.
But if you miss out on the golf ball because you're playing in front of me and you've heard this golf podcast, I'll give you a ball if you miss out by a shot, because you didn't come back to the tee because you knew I'd be there asking you 29 points, mate, or 32. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah, it's not the rule. You're not allowed to hit a provisional if you just think it's in the penalty area or fairway. We've covered that a couple of times. It's a little bit annoying that isn't an option, I must admit, but that is the rules. We stick by them. But, if you have any inkling that your ball might be lost outside the penalty area or out of bounds, just hit another one. It's literally another 35 seconds. Grab a ball. Hey, guys, provisional. Bang. Okay, let's go. It's not that hard, and it saves time. That's what we're here for, saving time.
Blakey, is that? I hope we've helped people. I feel like you've got a bit off your chest there today, Blakey. I feel
slow play is my absolute enemy. I hate it. I just don't understand why people play slow. Be aware. Don't be an inconsiderate.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can't challenge Blakey on slow play because he played 72 holes in one day, 9 holes. What's that? 8 times?
Yeah, we played a 9-hole course, and I absolutely. My playing partner, or Joey, didn't quite finish as he'd like to finish. So we were a bit quiet on the gram afterwards. But I just want to say, fantastic the amount of support that we got. I think we raised $850, which I thought was pretty good in 2 weeks. So I really appreciate everyone giving, and all the messages as well, just saying, well done and go on, good that you're doing this for charity and stuff like that. So I just really want to shout out everyone that donated. I really, really appreciate it. I think I lost 1 ball. Joey lost about 4. He also stuffed his phone after a chipping incident, but it's back to full health now. I was trying to break 300. I missed out by 1 shot, which wasn't great. So it just means that I'll be back next year. And if we talked about gimmies, obviously gimmies are good for slow play, or good for good pace of play, but you're not allowed to play gimmies if you're playing normal golf. But if I hadn't missed those 4 1-footers, 6 inches, whatever, I would have beaten 300 by 3 shots. So if I hadn't played by the rules, I probably could have broken 300 quite easily, but I played by the rules, as I always do. And, it's a challenge next time. So it's a really good challenge that I'll be up for next year. And I hope you come along and play as well, Rossco, if you're not too busy.
Yeah, hopefully my golf fitness is back in some shape or form by then, because right now, 3 games post-lockdown, it's golf fitness is a real thing. Just my fitness isn't my normal thing, but that's my 2021 thing. But golf fitness, which what I mean by is just playing regular golf keeps you golf fit. It's left me. I can feel it after a round. I did tell you I was going to play with a European Tour player last podcast, and if anyone was wondering who that was, it was with the young man Lucas Herbert, winner of this year's Dubai Desert Classic and 4th position in the Rolex event at the Scottish Open. Had a reasonably successful year by all accounts in a somewhat fragmented year. Now, young Lucas, the special thing the reason why I bring it up is he played, we played the back tees, the Bacchus back tees at Peninsula Kingswood South, and he played with clubs that were probably older than you and I put together, Blakey. The Walter Hagen blades, if that's what they're called. He played with those, and an old Penner persimmon, couldn't even call it a block, it was that small. It was a twig. Played with one of those. So all I had was a new set of grips. He had his Golf Pride Tour Velvet cord grips on there, and it just showed what level of player those guys are. I'm assuming that, I'm basically saying that all players at the PGA Tour level or European Tour level are great, but Lucas Herbert just smashed this little white ball and that little club, and he was hitting the drive, the persimmon, 300 meters into the wind, high, low. He shape any shape you want, and he probably shot 3 or 4 under around Peninsula Kingswood South with these clubs that were 1965 models, and just goes to show the ball does still go a long way with the old technology as well as the new technology. But he hit it straight. He could hit anything that day. But it was really interesting. So for all the rollbackers, that was an interesting experience for me. If if you don't know what rollback is, just Google Rollback Alliance, and you'll come across a couple of Melbourne lads who are very big on that. Anyway, that's another topic.
Yeah, certainly another topic, the equipment topic. But I just yes, we played 72 holes in 11 hours. It's a shorter course, but it's got a couple of hills, so it sort of evened out. And we saw one other person all day. It was great. We didn't run around, but it was close. I just don't piss around. I don't play slow. Now, background. I think we're finished with our slow play. Are we?
Yes, we are definitely. Yeah, we've taken long enough to get to the end of the slow play. We're probably a bit slow.
So background bingo, Rossco, last week.
Last week, my course was Metro. I actually don't know the hole. You could tell the hole by the grains of alluvial soil and the structure of the bunker face there. But it was definitely Metro. Did Andrew Miller get that right again?
Andrew Miller got it. My first guess was Huntingdale, which is neighbouring course, like literally just across the fence. But yeah, didn't get, because there's a pine tree in the background. I was thinking, those kind of bunkers, pine tree. Huntingdale, but no, Andrew got it as Metro. He didn't get my one, which is a little bit tough. Had some wonderful mountains in the background where my parents are members. It's the Denfield Golf Course, the Geraldine Golf Club, and then this week staying in the South Island with one of our most famous mountains. There can't be too many golf courses with this kind of backdrop. So, I know Andrew will give it a go. So good luck.
Mine's a tap in for someone like Andrew, but there you go.
If you can see the logo on the flag, then that's a guarantee. It's one, and sorry to do this to you, Rossco, but I'm not sure if it's this course. But this complex has one of the most photographed par threes in Australia.
Yeah, well, it's got 3 courses down there, so Andrew makes it a little bit harder for you to pick which one it is. But there you go, there it is. Great place, great facility. Okay, and this week's Golf Rules Question of the Week, Blakey, and that'll be it for us for Christmas Eve 2020. What's the question? What question do we have for the listeners, young man?
So just before we get into it, yes, we're going to break. We're going to break for a couple of weeks, and we'll come back with season 2, and hoping for something, maybe a bit of a change up, maybe the same, but maybe a bit of a change up. But
all right. When did we discuss that? What management meeting did we discuss that at?
It was the one you missed.
Oh, right.
You know, that when you had your other job, which jobs that you're part of. But I'm leaving them hanging, Rossco. It might come back and it's totally the same, but they don't know that.
No, fair enough. Season 2. Well, it's the thing. If you want to give us any feedback on what season 2 might behold for you as a Golf Rules interested person, please write to GolfRules.questions at anyway, it's all in the show notes. So anywhere where you can contact Blakey. But I suggest you jump onto his mailing list. He did commit for 2021 to produce more newsletter type information. Like we might not get to the prolific nature of Andy Johnson at the Fried Egg, who was absolutely unbelievable. But Blakey, I've challenged him. I've pushed him. He is going to be more prolific with the writing. So you do want to be part of that. You want to be on his list. So subscribe on the website, because he's got.
That's another good point. We ticked over 3,000 YouTube subscribers since we last talked. So we're up
to what that means?
3,030. So you and I need to schedule a Victorian golf course trip. Yeah,
well, I need to get a few ticked off for my Golf Australia magazine top 100 commitments that I've got the email the other day.
I'm not sure. Have you got a region that you're thinking of?
No, I haven't really thought about it.
Well, we could do the Murray. Ross does the Murray.
Well, that's my dad's and brother's names. Yeah, we'll work on that.
Or we could go to Port Fairy. That'd be awesome.
Mm.
Warrnambool, around there. Now, this week's Golf Rules question of the week, the last one for Christmas, is if Rossco hits his ball off the 7th hole at PK South and he hits it into the middle of a fairway of another hole, and then he goes down and he can't find his ball, and he's pretty sure that it's in the middle of the fairway. He's like, yeah, I've been here before. It should just be in the middle of the fairway. Searches for 3 minutes. Then a guy yells out,
"Hey, mate, it's a Pro V1."
with a 3 on it. Yeah, I picked it up. Oh, sorry, mate. What is the ruling?
Okay.
So you absolutely know that someone has moved your ball because it's sitting in his golf bag or in his pocket right now.
But it's after 3 minutes of searching
But
time.
it's after the 3 minutes. Does that matter?
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. All right, Blakey. Good question.
Well, there's been a really good episode, especially to finish off, and just wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and a prosperous, Happy New Year.
Looking forward to touching base with you back in 2021 for more Golf Rules Questions podcast. Thanks again. And like, share, subscribe, all of the great stuff. Check out Blakey and all of his plethora of ways that you can get hold of his information. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next year on the Golf Rules Questions podcast.
See you guys.